Yes guys, Buffering Ghost Star here. I really like that comment on my last video, so I might make that my online persona. Last video, what J-horror has taught me about the anti-foreigner sentiment in Japan. Did alright by my standards. Maybe not much in the grand scheme of things, but I was pretty happy with it, so I wanted to follow it up, try and replicate that formula with today's video. What Battle Royale taught me about Japan. Just to make it a little bit more topical, a little bit more of a modern day twist, what Battle Royale taught me about Japan that TikTok certainly isn't. Because I moved to Japan nearly 10 years ago now, and I've since left Japan, but I still love the country, I love the culture. But every time I open my little TikTok nowadays and I'm swiping through, I always see something along the lines of, what's your favorite place in Japan? Don't say Shibuya, don't say Shibuya, don't say Shibuya. Shimokitazawa. Why? Ah, fuck. Why? Cafes?
Why do you like Japan?
Studio Ghibli, anime, Hawaii. Just the same thing on repeat over and over and over again. People defining Tokyo by the fact that there's a few cute cafes in certain districts. This is just me offering my opinion, guys, but in the late 90s, early 2000s, the J-horror boom, Tartan Asia Extreme for anyone in the UK, that is where we discovered these films. That was who was bringing them to us. I would go and pick out random movies, look at the quotes on the front. My favorite movie, Quentin Tarantino, I presume he's got good taste. I'll check this one out. Now, for any of you who are new here, you might think, oh, what I'm about to describe sounds a lot like the Hunger Games. Is it just like the Hunger Games? Comparing Battle Royale and Hunger Games is like deciding that you want to bash one out and you've got two choices. The swimming pool scene from Showgirls, one of the sexiest, most erotic, most wild, passionate things I've ever seen. You can watch that, Battle Royale. Or you can watch Hunger Games, which is the equivalent of going and swimming in a swimming pool that Bonnie Blue is in, smashing 2,500 guys, all sorts of shit floating around. It's going to be going in your eyes, it's going to be going in your mouth. No, just stick to the classic shit, because Battle Royale is one of the best. So I won't describe it as a horror movie per se, horrific themes. One of the best extreme Asian films, part of that genre, that glory era of movies which was coming out of Japan at the time, out of Korea. It explores a lot of interesting themes, but I think the one that I want to touch on the most, again, going back to TikTok, is that I think a lot of people, depending on how they are introduced to Japan, have this idyllic idea about the country. Japan is not the perfect anime society that people will have you think online. There are a lot of social issues, there are a lot of deeper issues, just like in any country, by the way, just like in the UK, a lot of deep issues going on in the UK right now. There's a lot going on in Japan that people just choose to ignore because it doesn't suit their social media narrative. Battle Royale is a movie that just shines a light on that shit. And I've done a lot of research on this movie. I've studied Japanese cinema. One of the most interesting things I found is that the director, when he was creating this film, when he had these ideas, this vision in his mind, he was drawing from his World War experiences, seeing people die, seeing dead bodies, and also the propaganda that he was witnessing at the time. He believed that the narrative that Japan was being fed at the time didn't match what was actually happening, and he felt disenchanted. He didn't trust authority, and that is the type of relationship that he wanted to create between the students and the authority figures when he was crafting his vision. But it's not just what was happening just after the war, it was when this film was released. It came out in the year 2000. Japan had had its economic boom, and now Japan was suffering from its economic collapse. At that time, a lot of the youth were feeling disenchanted with the society that they were entering into. Representation of adults in the film, whether it was circumstantial, whether it was their fault, that is what the youth were seeing, and that is what they feared for their future. The society that they had to enter into at the time was collapsing. It was nothing like what it was 20, 30 years before that, when Japan was on the rise. But most of all, it was the lost innocence of the youth that was being explored in this film. Now, it's very blatant in the film. The context of the movie is very violent, but what are the youth truly capable of if they refuse to fit into their assigned system? I'll never forget reading about this story in Kobe, I believe it was, 1997. There was a string of child murders, and with the murders, with body parts, there were notes from the killer, threatening notes, promising to continue what was happening. The most horrific thing about that particular story is that it turned out to be a 14-year-old boy who was the murderer, killing children, dismembering children, leaving body parts in public places for people to find, etc. A 14-year-old child who was doing this. Another famous story is the story of Junko Furata, who in the late 80s was captured by a gang within her school. Apparently, what started out as a flirtation, which was not reciprocated, turned into a capturing, a torturing, all sorts of horrific acts that I won't speak about here. I imagine that things like this happening in Japan, in this peaceful society, was terrifying for people. Not only terrifying in the sense of the horrific nature of those crimes, but also terrifying in the sense of what are these children, what are these young people, teenagers, children capable of? Where is this coming from? And I think that is something that is deeply explored in Battle Royale. In my opinion, it is a masterpiece exploring the theme of what if. What if you were in this situation? What would you be capable of? How would you handle it? Because within that group of teenagers who are subjected to this particular scenario, many of them handle it in many different ways. People are against it, people are embracing it, people are trying to find a way out of it. It's obviously an extreme scenario. It's obviously a very crazy scenario. Ultimately, it asks the question of, if you were in that situation, what would you do? How would you handle it? Which character would you be? Which character would you align with? And obviously that isn't a reflection of Japan as a whole, but I think what it is a insight into something different. To so many people, they just want to think, oh, Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli, etc., etc. But there is another side to Japanese society, and when you live there, you sort of see that side. You see that there is a darker side to the society, just like any country in the world, and you see that there are people who are having various struggles. So if you are one of those fantasists, is that a word? Fantasists? Oh, Japan is a utopia, the perfect society. Well, I think I should live here. I think I should live here. I was recently in Tokyo for 3 nights, and here are 5 things that you cannot miss. That is all well and good, but I would simply say educate yourselves a little, widen your horizons. It doesn't mean things are bad. It's just interesting, in my opinion, to analyze the evidence that we already have, the media, the art, etc., that is already there. Hope this one's been interesting enough, guys. If you've got any questions or comments, pop them down below. See you in the next one. Bye bye.